Hey everybody, it's Melissa from White Castle with Books, and today I'm going to be doing the Authortube Newbie Tag. So I'm just going to get right to the questions. The first question is, how did I find out about Authortube? And the answer is BookTube. The second question is, what genres do you write in? And I write in sci-fi and fantasy, in usually YA. I would really like to try a historical fiction someday, but I feel like that would be a huge project with a ton of research. And I also would love to write some type of self-help book someday eventually, but that's really vague and I don't know where I'm going to go with that. So, mostly sci-fi and fantasy right now. The third question is, what is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? And I kind of mentioned before, I think I write mostly in YA. I'm not super good at categorizing, but I don't write adult. My writing is really light. I think it would be really cool to do a middle grade book someday. I just think that would be fun. And I have actually written children's books that I sent one to a publisher once, and anyway. But I like writing children's books just kind of for the fun of it. My favorite tense right now, I feel like I write naturally in past tense, and I just don't. Present tense to me feels jarring. I think it's because I just haven't read enough books in present tense. So I like to write in past tense, and usually it's third person, but the one that I'm starting right now is in first person, and I really like first person past tense. It feels natural to me, so I'm gonna kind of explore that and write more in that for now. I'm just kind of a new author, and so I don't really have like a lot of preferences. I just kind of start writing and then I get a feel for what feels more natural to me. Question number 4 is, are you a plotter, a plantser, or a pantser? And I've heard these terms before, and I've also heard the gardener and architect terms that Brandon Sanderson uses a lot. I don't remember where he got those terms, but I have discovered that this is one of my favorite topics actually, because, and I was talking with my writing group about this, and we feel like, well, for me, the way that I look at it is I want a certain outcome, and I prefer books that have been plotted. And so even though I actually feel like I'm naturally a pantser, I'm going to really work hard on my ability to plot and see if I can become better at that, because I love the way a book feels when you just have that bang ending that feels like it was really well led up to. And there might be authors out there who can do that really well, but for me, I need more structure to be able to follow that and keep the story cohesive and have all of the foreshadowing that I want to lead up to the end. And I know some of that comes through editing, but what happens with me is when I start, if I don't have enough of a plot set in place, then it just feels like I'm wasting time, and I write a bunch of just book, and then I get to the end and I'm like, well, I can see all of these huge problems that may have actually been avoided had I plotted. So for me, I actually think that even though I feel like I naturally am a pantser, that I'm more of a plotter. And I know a lot of people answer this by just saying, well, I'm a plantser, which I kind of think everybody just is. But I think if I push more towards the plotting, then my books will become the books that I want them to be, which is what I'm really going for. So I'm going to go for plotter on this one. Question 5 is, are you self-published, published, or yet to be published? And just a quick side note, I forgot to record this question when I recorded the rest of the questions. So if the camera's a little bit off or different, it's because I had to reset it up the next day when I was editing and just throw this question in there. So all that aside, I am yet to be published, and I feel like I will probably just try for the traditional publishing route, because I feel like it's just a lot to try to be in charge of, to make sure you get a good cover and get the editing done well and get the marketing for your book. And even though self-publishing seems like a really, really neat option, I would like to just shoot for the traditional publishing route so that I have a lot of help with all of that. I want to be able to just focus on my writing, and it is a second part of my life, or a secondary part of my life, even though it's one of my biggest passions. It's just that I have 3 little children and they're my top priority. So I feel like if I could get to the point where I was had an agent and a publishing company, then they could take so much more of the responsibility and I could just focus on my writing and not maybe have to worry so much about the other aspects of being a published author. So for now, that's kind of my goal, but you never know, it could change. I think self-publishing is really cool, and that it's awesome that it is that there's that option out there. I'm gonna read question number 6 because it's longer and I want to get it exactly right. So, what publishing company, literary agent, and/or printing company are you represented by or use? If you are not yet published, what is your dream publishing house and/or literary agent? And I've done some research on literary agents, and just through the course of watching lectures on YouTube and listening to other authors, I've heard publishing companies named, but I don't actually have enough information to pick one. I just know that a lot of people have said that you have to be really careful. Like, as a new author, you think, oh, just any agent, please pick me up. But it's a huge deal for you to get an agent that you fit really well with. So I'm just going to go with that I would love to find an agent eventually that I fit really well with. Question 7 is, what Authortube related videos can we expect to see from your channel? And I mentioned this in my update video a little bit, but one of the things that I want to focus on are there's a book called Atomic Habits, and he talks about how there's like this, I can't remember the term, but it's like the 1% rule, where you go in and you change everything, you just up all the little things 1%, and you make it just the teeniest bit better. Like he talks about the British cycling team and how they went in and they did all these little things that were seemingly small, but overall it made a huge difference for the team, and they became so much stronger because of it. And what I would like to do is go in with writing with that idea, where it's like, where are the little things that you can find, that you can change, just that little teeny bit that you can up your game just a little bit, and then over all of these little changes you can get the huge changes. So like an example of this for me would be that I am trying to study body language a little bit more, so that I can incorporate different body language cues that people can read in my writing and feel that show instead of telling for the character's emotion. And you know, I want to do a video on this, but there are a whole bunch of body language cues that we don't even recognize that we're seeing every single day. And in writing, there's a lot of cliche ones, which is fine. They convey a message and people are used to them. So, you know, you say, he shrugged. And we get an image of what that person was feeling at the time, what that character was feeling at the time. But I would like to go in and find ways that that I can up my game with body language in my books. And I want to find other little things in writing that I can change just enough, just a little tweak, learn just a little bit more about this topic, so that ultimately overall my writing becomes that much stronger. And then I would like to try to open discussions up on my channel with you guys to see what your thoughts are and receive your insight. And so I want some of my videos to focus on that, but outside of that, it's going to be just writing vlogs and thoughts on NaNoWriMo and writing as a mom and scheduling things, just stuff like that, stuff that I'm already doing that I can just grab the camera and film and talk to you guys about and receive feedback on and grow with. Question number 8 is, when did you start writing? And I don't know exactly how old I was. I know that I was I was probably about 14 when I got my first really old little laptop and I started writing stories down on this laptop. I bought it for like $40 off of eBay, and it barely ran, and it had a line of dead pixels across the screen. But I was so excited about it, and I started writing this fantasy book. I know I was writing stories before that just by hand, but I don't remember any specifically. But I also used to tell my younger siblings stories at bedtime. I had a story about two little kids and a dragon that I told them in various forms multiple times at night when they were settling down. And that's kind of one of my first memories of telling stories. And so probably since I was like 12 or 13, I've been writing / making up stories, maybe even before that. Question 9, I kind of answered in question 8. It's, what's the first story that you ever wrote? And I don't remember what it was called or really that much about it, but it was about the time that I got that little laptop off of eBay and I started writing this fantasy story, and it was probably about a girl archer because I was 14 and fantasy and archery, and yeah. Question number 10 is, what authors have inspired your writing the most? And Brandon Sanderson has inspired my writing the very most for multiple reasons. I've met him, we were at a Comic-Con and he was there doing signings, and I was able to talk with him for just a few minutes, and I've also watched a bunch of his lectures that he has online. He teaches at BYU University in Provo. I think he still teaches there. And it's not only his exceptional writing, but him as a person, I've always felt just was thinking about other people. And he had the abundance mentality where he was not worried about whether his own career would be affected by other people. He just wanted to share his knowledge, and he wanted to help other authors who wanted to become authors like him. But he also brought an element of reality to it where he wasn't sugarcoating anything. He was just telling you what he knew and sharing the knowledge that he has gained freely and openly. And outside of that, of course, I feel like his books are just phenomenal. I don't know how he keeps track of everything that he writes, because he writes a lot, and he writes really complex stories with intertwining characters across books and ages, and it's insane. And I just think that overall he's an inspiring person. Outside of Brandon Sanderson, I really love an author that is maybe not as well known. His name is Gerald Lund, and he is an author that primarily writes books marketed to members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he has just a gift for bringing people to life, characters. I mean, his characters are so relatable and so real to me that I just have beautiful memories of staying up way too late reading his books when I knew I had to get up and take care of kids in the morning, but not being able to put it down because I cared so much about the people and about the characters in those books. And that ability to me is just amazing. Along the same lines, I really love Jane Austen. I feel like her ability to create individual characters that just really stood apart from each other is, I have a hard time finding that in books. Sometimes you read books and they have interesting hooks and premises and promises, and you care about the characters and you want to see what happens, but sometimes the characters feel a little bit more meshed together. Jane Austen feels like she just had this, it felt like she just has this way of her characters being so separate and so individual. And that's really important to me. I'm very character driven when I write and when I read. I care about caring about the characters. The world building is an awesome bonus for me. I love interesting new worlds, but the characters are what I really care about. And I feel like Jane Austen just had a gift for bringing people to life and having very individual, very distinct characters in her writing. Question 11 is, do you schedule your writing sessions or do you just get to writing whenever you can? And I have been trying to incorporate specific habits into my life in the way that the Atomic Habits book talks about, which shows different techniques you can use to be really consistent with the habits that you want to create. For me, it really helps to couple my habits, which is something he talks about in that book as well. But when you couple your habits, you take a habit that you already have established, and then you add another habit right next to it. And so if you want to start flossing your teeth at night, you just say, I'm coupling this with brushing my teeth. I already brush my teeth consistently. I never forget. It's not something I have to consciously think about. I will simply add flossing my teeth right at the end of brushing my teeth. And for me, right now, what works with writing is that as soon as I put my youngest daughter down for bed for her nap, I allow my kids some screen time, my older two kids some screen time, and I work on my book. And so every single day when my daughter takes a nap, I work on my book. If something happens, like we go to town that day and my daughter falls asleep in the car and we're coming back and so her nap is over, then at that point I have to readjust my schedule, and that typically means writing at like 10 o'clock at night, which is actually my favorite time to write. So I kind of do a little bit of both, but I really try to stay consistent with writing at her nap time so that I can form this habit and I will make it an unconscious part of my life, like it talks about in the book. So that's kind of how I handle it. With kids, you just have to adjust sometimes. All right, question 12 is, do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything out by hand, or use a blend of those, and where do you write in general? I have an iPad and it has the little Bluetooth keyboard and I type on that, and I love my iPad so much. It's so portable, it's so easy. I love touchscreen, and that's usually where I write. That being said, when I have a really new, fresh idea, I love to write it out by hand. This isn't typically like writing scenes by hand, but if I have ideas or I'm just thinking about a concept, then I love to write it out on a piece of paper. And I basically always have a notebook and a pen with me almost wherever I go because I have ideas and I just have to write them down that way. I typically write I have a Lazy Boy recliner and it's super soft. That's usually where I write. Sometimes if I'm having a lot of trouble with my back because I have scoliosis, so sometimes it can just get really hurting, I'll write up to the table. Sometimes that's more comfortable. It just kind of depends on how my back is doing. Until like 3 days ago, we didn't even have a couch because we were still moving in and buying furniture. So we just barely got a couch, and I have a feeling that I'll also spend a lot of time writing there because it kind of supports my back and it's just really comfortable. So typically just in the living room. I don't like writing in my bed. It's for sleeping for me. So and the final question number 13, is what am I looking forward to on Authortube, being part of the Authortube community? And I kind of talked about this, I think, in my update video, or whether it was the update video or the beginning of this video, I don't remember. We live in a really small town. Like, I think it's about 1,000 people, and we've met some incredible people, and we're making some really cool friends, and we have a lot in common with these people. Books is not one of those things. And so far, I haven't really found a community of book lovers here. And being so far away from my family, they were usually the ones I talked to about books. And I still do that over the phone, but it's not the same as having a full, huge community. And I'm really excited to just experience the diversity that you can find on Authortube. I mean, everybody has their unique perspective, and the insights that people get even out of the same book are totally unique. And so I really love learning from different people and experiencing their perspective from the things that you experience. And so I'm excited to hopefully interact with you and interact with anybody that finds my channel. I'm really excited to be able to talk about my own perspective with writing and the way that I'm growing right now. I want to be able to grow with everybody because we're all in this together, and a lot of us are still unpublished, and a lot of us are still trying to figure this out, and even really accomplished authors are constantly trying to improve their writing because it's kind of like one of those things that you never have perfected. And so I love the fact that we can do this even though we have so many restrictions out there. The internet's still there. We can still interact. We can still grow together and learn from each other and share our experiences with books and with writing. And so I'm the most excited about just being able to learn from the individuals, from everybody, from all of you on Authortube, and get all of that insight from you, even though I'm separated from my family and from other people that are really into books. I still have the internet and I still have you guys, and that's just amazing to me, and it's super exciting. So that's my Authortube Newbie Tag. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more. And if you also have a channel, put a comment in the comments below so that I can find your channel and subscribe to you and start learning from you, and we can continue to build this amazing community together. And thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.